Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Just a really quick interlude here. I want to do a quick video on why handlebar choice is vital to bike fit and why the same bike fit on two different bikes but with different handlebars can feel completely different. And bars is an area where a lot of people kind of disregard their bike fit because they get their reach figure from the bike fitter, which will typically be from the nose of the saddle to the middle of the stem, and that will be their reach figure. And then they'll think that applies to all bikes. Well, it doesn't, because handlebars have their own reach and their own drop, and that can really affect where your wrists end up on the hoods of the brake levers, as we'll see here. So these two bikes have, to the middle of the stem or to the middle of the handlebar, exactly the same reach measured from the saddle clamp. Now I measure from the saddle clamp because this tip of the saddle measurement is really ambiguous anyway, because that means that you have to have the same saddle on every bike. Now if you're going abroad and you're renting a bike to ride, that assumes it's going to have the same saddle as your own one back at home, which is ludicrous, because it could be up to like 3 centimeters shorter, and that's a massive difference in terms of bike fit. So unless you're riding the same saddles like I am here, do it from the center of the seat post clamp area, because that's kind of a more reliable datum. So anyway, if I measure from the front of the seat clamp on these two bikes, which happens to be the same model of seat post, to the center of the clamp at the front of the stem, which is the center line of the bars essentially, then they are within 2 millimeters of each other. Now this one closest to me is actually even slightly shorter, because this bike has a steeper seat tube angle. So if you were taking that as your reach figure, you think these two bikes are set up exactly the same. But why does this one then activate my lower back into gruesome pain and put my glutes under much more demand? Well, it's because of the handlebars, and this is where a lot of people get misled into thinking that all handlebars are the same. So I've put these bikes reasonably in line so that the tops of the handlebars are sitting in line with each other. Now, I mean, they're not exactly, but you'll have to take my word for this. On this bike I've got a Physique Cyrano carbon bar, and on this one I've got FSA Omega, which is a very popular compact drop bar, which I find really comfortable and I've used on many bikes before. Now look at where my hands are going to end up on the Physique bar. It's got a very, very long reach and a much more traditional drop, and look at how much deeper those drops are as well, and that's a good 2 inches just on the drops, and the height of the bars is more or less the same. You know, the drop or the height of the bars off the floor or from the center of the front wheel is more or less the same. But I've got, if you take kind of the middle of the hood where you're going to rest your hands, where you should be riding most of the time, on this one it's almost an inch further forward. And an inch, imagine if someone said, right, you need to ride a stem that's 2.5 centimeters shorter to get the same reach. That's a big difference in stem length. So on both these bikes I've got 120mm stems, but look at where the hoods end up, and that's all because of the bars. And when I was first riding this bike I was thinking, well, this is weird, this is set up as the same basic bike fit as my last bike, but it just doesn't feel right, and it's because I've got a much longer reach. One of the things is these hoods are different. They're slightly bigger because they are disc brake, but the main reason is the handlebar has a longer reach. So moral of the story is, do pay attention to handlebar reach and drop figures, and take that into account into your reach. So when you're measuring your reach from your bike fitter, if he or she is giving you a reach figure from the tip of the saddle to the middle of the bar, you know, tell them to get lost, because that's really shit information. You need something that's more reliable, something that has a more reliable datum which you can translate across all of your bikes. So I would take it from the center of the seat clamp to, or the center line of the top of the seat post, to the area where you're braking, so the middle of the hood. So that's a much more reliable method of determining reach, and it's a great way of getting consistent reach across all bikes. So do pay attention to handlebar drop. Also, if you're changing handlebars or upgrading, do pay attention to the reach figure and the drop figure if you ride in the drops a lot, because obviously these are very deep. I don't mind that, I can get a bit lower, but the reach has me a little bit uncomfortable with these bars, so definitely pay attention to that. Cheers, thanks for watching. Let me know if you've got any comments or suggestions for future things like this in terms of bike fit.